Nigeria has a budget, now has a budget. These after months of uncertainties about its passage and signing. But what should we expect? And the data for Nigeria's employment rate makes that unemployment rate is out. The figures are not comforting. Now, UK Prime Minister will have more to chew as the UK witnessed its highest inflation in 4 years. Well, it's a loaded show on Business Nigeria today. Welcome. I am Yemisi Lanre. Nigeria's acting president, Yemi Osinbajo, on Monday assented to the country's 2017 budget, exactly 1 month after the parliament passed the $24.3 billion fiscal plan that the executive hopes will take the economy out of recession. Although the budget has been signed, but the breakdown will be presented to the general public on Monday, as the acting president has urged top officials of the government to pay serious attention to the revenue side of the budget, emphasizing that improved generation was necessary to fund the budget. Well, there seems to be something commendable on the path of the government that it says it is starting a move to return the country back to a predictable January to December fiscal year with early preparation of the 2018 budget proposals. But what do we expect and how will this be implemented? Well, I have with me in the studio an investment analyst with Morgan Capital, Lanre Ogunlana. Many thanks for your time, Lanre.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, with the signing of this budget, government can now begin to release funds for the execution. Now, what's your impression? Of course, it was delayed. First half of the year is gone. What's your first impression? Let's get your initial impression.
Let's say that the budget is like 165 days late, but better late than never. But let's not deceive ourselves. There's a little that the government could do between now and the end of the year. So we have to really look forward to the 2018 budget, which the government promised to send to the National Assembly by October and hopefully get passed by December. Because by now, for the MDs to receive the budget, before they start going through the due process and everything, then you see before funds start getting released, they might get like 3 months, and then you have little that you could do between that period. So we say it's been a bit disappointing, but we just really have to look forward and make do with the little time we have left.
Yes, from that budget, we know that after the signing from the acting president's speech, he lamented the delay in the presentation and of course the signing, blaming that situation on disagreements between the executive and the legislative assembly. That's the National Assembly. Of course, changes were introduced into that 2017 budget. What do we expect from the implementation generally?
Yeah, I would say rather unfortunately, in Nigeria, our budget is more of politics than economics. And until we have a better structure on how our budget is prepared and processed and passed, I think we will always face all this problem. Now, I think the law guarantees us that it is the executive that has the sole responsibility of preparing the budget, while the National Assembly have the responsibility of oversight and also ensuring that everything is put in place. But unfortunately, by the time the federal government sent the budget down to the assembly just go on a wide good chase of totally start preparing a fresh budget, and that takes time. And like the VP has rightly pointed out in his address, that from October, the executive and the legislature, they will start engaging each other and ensure that by the time the budget is sent down to the legislature, then every lacuna, every issue will have been sorted out, then the budget can be passed in the earnest.
Yes, they are actually working hard to ensure that we return to a normal fiscal period within this year, October, for the 2018 budget. But how did we get to that point where we have to delay the budget into the next year?
You see, Nigeria is a very polarized country, and we have to accept that. And like I said earlier, the budget is more politics than economics. And when you have political interest prevailing over economic issues, then we always find ourselves in this kind of scenario. I think what we need is the leadership at the level of the federal government are very focused, are very decisive, precise and concise, and they know what they want to do, and they must play the politics, not just it.
Okay, so from this all, do we see a better financial market strategy from investors, from the private sector with this budget that has been signed?
Yeah, I think with this budget, it's called budget of recovery and growth. I think there's a level of relief in the capital market and the financial market, even though budget implementation is much more important than what is in the actual budget. We are cautiously optimistic. The market is cautiously optimistic. At least the market now has the document to work with and to make their projections and even their investment.
Okay, so do we get optimistic with what the acting president has said, that the economy is nearing exiting recession?
Yes, by the GDP numbers, we can see that the economy, the growth is still slow, but at least the rate of reduction is decreasing. So we have to be positive. I think the numbers coming out shows that there's a level of improvement. Well, it's still a long way to go. It's not huge yet, but I think we should be positive.
Yeah, there's a lot of technicality involved in the budget, but what does it mean to the common man?
Yeah, I think the common man wants food on the table. The common man wants a job. You know, in an economy like Nigeria, where government is responsible for almost 70% of the spending within the economy. So it's very important. Many state governments can't pay salaries. Many businesses, they are dependent on government, and that's where the common man get their salaries from. That's where businesses get to operate. So with the common man, is that by the time government starts releasing money into the economy, then you can see economic activities will start increasing.
All right,
then
Larry, that takes me to this discomforting news from the National Bureau of Statistics. Let's take a moment to take this story. Where the NBS disclosed that the unemployment rate in Nigeria has risen to 14.2% in the fourth quarter of 2016, up from the 13.9% recorded in the preceding quarter of the year under review. We have it on our wall here. It's the 9th consecutive quarter that the unemployment rate in Nigeria has increased. According to the data released, the latest unemployment rate is 4.2% higher than the rate recorded at the fourth quarter of 2015. Employment has faltered as businesses struggle amid Nigeria's first recession in 2 decades. Well, those companies dependent on foreign transactions are also suffering due to a critical shortage of dollars. Now, in Q4 2016, the labor force population increased to 81.15 million from 80.67 million in Q3 2016, representing an increase of 0.6% in the labor force during that quarter. Now, efforts by the government hasn't been felt as demand for jobs far outweighs supply. Yes, we have it all on our wall here. Let's take a look together. Yeah, this is 2016. Now, looking at the Q1, we have it at 22.1%, yeah. And we saw a decline in Q2 down to Q3, but in Q4 we saw another upward movement. Until now, we can still feel that, of course, with the delayed budgets, the government promised to create employment. But if we look at the rate as we have it now, the most unemployed and underemployed age group falls within the age of 15 to 34 years, and 19.3 million individuals in this age group were either unemployed or underemployed within this quarter of, that's the Q4 of 2016 at 14.2%. Now, with this latest budget that's been signed, is there any hope for this particular group that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think there's a level of hope, but beyond the budget, the stability we currently experience in the forex market will actually put some level of relief in this area, because you realize that there was serious acute shortage of forex during the Q3 and the Q4 of last year. So economic activities was practically grounded, but now CBN have opened several windows for SMEs and even companies to access forex to be able to import raw materials for production. So we think that stability will actually bring about some level of comfort in that area. And with this new budget of growth and recovery, I think that will also help. But I think Nigeria unemployment rate and underemployment is more structural, is more fundamental, and this budget can solve little problems here and there, but we really need to solve the problem of physical restructuring of the economy.
Of course, with this outcry, with this discomforting news, we can still compare it with the Q1 of 2016 that we had it at 22.1%. But the cry has been the issue of interest rate. There's still the need for the Monetary Policy Committee to address the issue of interest rate. We still have it at about 14%. And of course, inflation still at about 17% high. Now, how do you think that the private sector that needs to create more jobs, and of course the government that needs to create more jobs, will address this particular issue, looking at those key indicators?
Yes, unfortunately, when I hear people say the interest rate is high, the interest rate is a function of several factors. So the monetary policy implementation, as in, there's a little they could do in terms of monetary policy. Even if government is borrowing money at 14% and 70%, then how do you want the bank to even lend? So I think government, even in the debt space, government has crowded out that space, and government is even making it difficult for even small businesses to actually borrow. But it's a function of the economy. There must be alignment between the fiscal policy and the monetary policy for us to actually bring down the interest rate. That's just the only way forward.
Okay, that's the only way forward. I know the government is also working on implementing the ease of doing business. But how can the government actually work on this or implement this or be consistent, ensure consistency within this range if we have this very high?
If there's anything this government has done so well, I think it is in terms of the ease of doing business. And it is a marathon, it's not a sprint, but the little changes we are seeing, I think it just shows that this government has the political will to actually ensure that the ease of doing business is greatly improved in Nigeria. And we are seeing it from the level of the CAC, from the level of the FRS, from airports. It's little steps, but I think those are giant strides, and those actually show that the government has the political will to actually ease doing business in Nigeria. But there are also other factors that contribute to ease of doing business that is not what the executive can just sit down and just use executive orders to change. But at least we can see that the political will is there.
Yes, with the fiscal policies and monetary policies harmonized, and of course, with the budget signed, well, maybe in no time soon we'll have a proof of the rates of the socioeconomic hardship faced by Nigerians reduced, and of course, the economy can be better for it. Lanre Ogunlana with Morgan Capital, almost thank you so much for your time on Business Nigeria.